Great. Thanks, Sydney. I appreciate it. As she mentioned, my name is Mike Brown. I am the director of the Office of Veterans and Military Service Members here at Villanova University. This is a fairly new office here, and I think as we see from university to university, the level of support and staff, et cetera, for veterans and service members and other military affiliated students varies wildly. So when you're picking an institution and doing that research, I think it's important to look at that as well, because we're trying to make it as seamless as possible here at Villanova, but a lot of schools are doing the same thing. But do your due diligence beforehand when you're looking at different institutions to see what the level of support is while you're obtaining a degree. And so I'm going to share my screen and kick things off here in a second, but a little bit about me. I am a United States Army veteran. I joined the Army right after high school and was in the infantry for some time, stationed in Germany and deployed out of Europe, and then came back to Fort Hood, Texas. And then, like many of you or other folks, I used my GI Bill to go to college. And for me at that point, I didn't think I wanted to work in higher education or, doing this role, but I always have had a bent towards helping others. And so I just eventually ended up here. Before this, I was a congressional staff member for the first Iraq War veteran ever elected to Congress, Patrick Murphy out of Pennsylvania. And we helped modify the post 9/11 GI Bill to what it is today. So it's been sort of on the macro and now the micro level, helping students work through the weeds. As Sydney said, we're not going to get too deep today. There's some things I'll sort of glance on the surface level, and some things I'll go a little bit deeper on. But really, this is an opportunity for you to start to think, start to do, and start to ask. And those three things, as we approach this webinar and conversation, is important. You should start thinking about how you want to use your benefits. If you're wanting to give them to dependents, when and how to do that. If you're looking at other mechanisms for financing your education, start thinking about that. And then asking questions about it, whether that's to the VA, there's a VA student hotline that you can call, or whether that's the institutions that you're applying to or attending. There should be at least a certifying official there, if not other folks dedicated to helping you as a student. So again, I'm going to share my screen and get things started. Can everyone see that? I hope so. And so, when we think about, the FAFSA, the GI Bill, the Yellow Ribbon Program, a couple of things, what is it? Why does it matter? And am I eligible? So there's, three important questions. And we'll start with the Yellow Ribbon Program. And, what is it? And so when you think about the Yellow Ribbon Program, the VA every year sets aside a cap that students can utilize, whether it's at a community college in their local area or at an institution in some other states. The VA sets a cap. It's approximately $26,000. That changes every year. It goes up by a little bit, $500 or so. It's around $26,000 a year. The Yellow Ribbon Program, sorry about that again. $26,000 is the cap. Again, it raises a little bit every year, as does tuition, generally speaking. So you have to think about this as a sort of an escalator. But the Yellow Ribbon Program is a contractual agreement between the institution, for our purposes today, I'll say Villanova, and the VA to cover a specific amount of people and a specific amount above and beyond that cap, which then creates that Yellow Ribbon Agreement. So let's just say, as a hypothetical, the tuition at your institution costs $50,000. Obviously, the VA cap is 26. So there's a gap in the difference. If Villanova wants to cover that for 10 students, it will say, for those 10 students, we will split that $26,000 difference and the $50,000, so $24,000. We'll split that with the VA to cover the full amount for those 10 students. At Villanova, we do 50 for undergrad and another 15 for graduate. So again, that's the other part of about asking and thinking and doing is looking at each school's yellow ribbon program, because what Villanova does is not what Notre Dame does, is not what Georgetown does, is not, et cetera. You go down the list of schools, each school is going to be very different. And so it's very, very important to look at those and start, make sure you're on either a wait list or, you're applying for it. It's very important. If you're a graduate student, some schools don't cover anything within the graduate space. Some do. Villanova covers, like I said, 15, but again, that varies very much from campus to campus. And so again, that agreement is covering the difference between the cap and what tuition is actually at. Once you're on the list and you have eligibility for it, then you are usually good for your entire time at that institution. And this is very, pertinent to schools that obviously are above that cap. Private institution. When Sydney said we're one of the partner schools, most of the schools on that list are schools that are their tuition is above that $26,000 gap. So it's again important to know. And how do I know if I'm eligible? How do I know if my service time is covered? Well, when you think about applying to the VA for benefits in general, you'll understand that you'll get a certificate of eligibility. So you'll apply to the VA and you'll get that in the mail and see it on your e-benefits portal, which lays out an actual percentage of benefit that you're eligible for. If you have served enough active duty time, you are eligible for the full 100% post 9/11 GI Bill, which automatically gets you qualified for the yellow ribbon program. Anything below that 90% or that 100%, I'm sorry, makes you not eligible for the program. An example of that would be a National Guard or reservist. Maybe they did one deployment to Iraq, let's just say, and that may only give them 60% of eligibility for the GI Bill, which would make them ineligible for the yellow ribbon program. So again, when we're talking about the yellow ribbon program and eligibility, it's really important to think about the actual amount of time you served and how that relates to program eligibility. And then a new modification is dependents are going to be starting to be eligible for it. But another big change is active duty service members. And this is something where in the past, up until August 1st, yellow ribbon was not accessible to service members. And that may be pertinent to like getting a graduate degree as a service member or whatever it is you're pursuing. It now opens the door for access to other institutions, which may not have been accessible earlier. So that's something to take into consideration as we move forward in this, as you're looking at schools maybe for the fall. As an active duty service member, there are now access points for you to do that. So, when the schools make this agreement, every year a school is able to modify that or change it. So that's another thing to take into consideration and to ask the schools about. So Villanova, last year we had 40 as our number, and this year we have 50. So we're growing our pool of yellow ribbon students by 10. That can change though year to year. So make sure you're asking that kind of question to the institution because there is modification. It's like thinking of changing your insurance policy as a civilian or as a person. You have an open window. Well, us as institutions also have that, and it is actually current right now. It's from basically from mid-March until May, where we have the time to take a look at our yellow ribbon program and then make any modifications if we want to the VA. So we have to notify them. And then, like I said, it becomes a contractual agreement. And there are implications for that for a variety of things. So here I just wanted to give you a little bit of a breakdown about giving you hypotheticals. These are actual colleges. I won't name any names because each institution has a variety of different resources and ability to do yellow ribbon. So here's college 1, 2, and 3. And again, we look at the tuition number. That's very important. The VA cap, which again this year is around 26. It won't change very much next year. And then those gaps, that remaining tuition and what that looks like. How do we cover that? And we'll get into more opportunities for how to cover that later. But specifically right here, we're looking at the yellow ribbon program. So in College One, tuition is $55,000 a year. The cap is 26, and there's a difference, right? It's $29,000. So what would happen in that is for the first semester, the tuition would come out. It would, cover a part of it for the first semester, maybe all of it, depending on the school and the cap. And then the second piece of it would be there'd be a little bit left over for that fall semester, where you may have to start using yellow ribbon funds then. And then for that spring semester, none of it would be covered under the cap. So you'd need all those yellow ribbon dollars for that spring semester, and maybe just a little bit for the fall semester. And so that's the implications there are, how the billing is done. So that's where we talk to the school certifying official and ask questions like that about how it pertains to your bill and how billing gets handled. What we do at Villanova is, again, once we know that you are a student hoping to use VA benefits, we don't penalize you for making late payments or kick you out of class for that. So that's something that, again, to talk about with the school certifying official, because there are times when the VA can be maybe a little bit late with getting payment to the institution, and that may impact your class standing if payments are made late. So all good conversations to have. But for this College One, the yellow ribbon is only $5,000 per student. And maybe that's unlimited. Any student can use it, but it only gives you $5,000. Well, that's clearly not covering the remaining $19,000 you have as a balance. So that means as a student, you have to look at other means of ways to get that covered. That can be using student loans, talking to different organizations, trying to get scholarships, grants, etc. But that is that institution, and that's good information to know, because again, you're left on the hook for some of those payments. College Two, which is similar to what we do here at Villanova, is we have a $65,000 tuition, approximately the VA cap, so it leaves around $39,000 as the difference. But we have an unlimited number of slots, unlimited amount. So that means for those 50 students, the out-of-pocket costs for tuition and fees are $0. And so that means, as you're walking into the institution, the only thing you're really having to pay for is some books and maybe a meal plan or whatever you're wanting to do. But the actual tuition and fees for those 50 students is fully covered, but it also can create wait lists. What if there are 55 students who are hoping to be students at Villanova and wanting to use the yellow ribbon? So that's one of the issues to ask and to think about with your school certifying official. They will know those numbers and be able to give you some a rundown for what that is. And for College Two, again, because this pertains to my institution, we also have 15 slots for graduate school. So that could be potentially the law school, an MBA, an MPA, a master's in whatever that is. And so again, we have 15 slots. So for those 15 students, that means nothing out of pocket. But we do have more than that usually applying and wanting to be here. The nice thing is, when you're talking about a graduate degree, you have that same cap. So the cap is $26,000 regardless of the undergrad or graduate degree. So when you're thinking about that, getting an MBA at a part-time rate, you're only taking one class a semester, you're usually not going to exceed that $26,000 a year cap. So you don't necessarily need to worry about the yellow ribbon at most institutions. There are some that maybe charge a little bit more than the cap, so that may be something to think about. But if you're going at a part-time clip, getting a graduate degree, obviously you can't do part-time usually at a law school. You're usually there as a full-time day student. But there are a lot of opportunities for other degrees in the graduate space that are either online or part-time at night, whatever, where you won't exceed that cap. And that's just something nice to know. You don't have to worry about it at that point. If there's wait lists or whatever, you're just using the VA to pay for the degree. But the thing about part-time is then you're starting to worry about the calendar, because the GI Bill, as I always like to say, it isn't a matter of money. It's really a matter of time. You only have those 36 months to use the benefit. So if you're using that for 3 credits a semester or 15 credits a semester, the time is still ticking at the same pace. So it's imperative to understand how much time you have left on your GI Bill, which again, you can learn from your certificate of eligibility or through your e-benefits portal. But it's also it's an important thing to understand with a part-time opportunity. So if you have the full 36 months and you're going part-time, what does that look like in real life? Are you going to be able to complete in those 36 months or not? So you may want to be in a more of a full-time master's program, but then again, you may be exceeding the cap and having to worry about yellow ribbon. So it goes both ways, if that makes any sense. And then there's college 3. Let's just say that's, a school that's been around for a while, that have the ability to have the full cap. And so there's a difference there. And the yellow ribbon for that school is unlimited. So if there's 5 veterans going to school there or 500, it doesn't matter. All of those students will be using the yellow ribbon and have access to that yellow ribbon for, to be fully funded. So these are just 3 hypothetical schools that, vary wildly, frankly. From school 1 to school 3, most folks would take a look at school 1, and a lot of folks using GI Bill benefits probably won't be applying to that school unless, they just really love it and feel like it's at home for them, or whatever reason. But more and more students, the data shows across the country that college 2 and 3 generally get more applications for military affiliated students who are hoping to use VA benefits. And because it makes financial sense, frankly, if I know I can go to college 3 and not have to ever worry about coming out of pocket or being on a wait list, I'm at least going to apply. And most colleges and institutions have waivers for, application fee waivers if you want to apply. There's absolutely no harm in applying. The worst thing they're going to do is tell you no. They may tell you yes, then you have some tough decisions to make. Are there any questions here at this point? I think this is a good time to sort of take a breath and look at this information and sort of understand some of the differences, the variations within the VA and the yellow ribbon program. I'm happy to answer a couple questions. And if there are none, then I will certainly keep moving forward.
Don't see any in the chat yet, Michael.
All right, so what about other benefits? What if I'm a dependent of a service member who is 100% service-connected disabled, but who served maybe in Vietnam or something, so that person is not eligible to transfer benefits, or utilize the benefits themselves? There's something called dependent education assistance, and that's Chapter 35. And for that benefit, it gives you a monthly stipend that goes to you, the student, not the institution. So the difference between the GI Bill is the school is getting paid, covering the tuition and fees, but there's also BAH for the student, which I didn't mention beforehand. It was, but that's what the GI Bill does, is it pays the school and it pays you. And one of the things to take into consideration again for the GI Bill is the zip code of the institution is really going to have an impact on the BAH that you receive monthly. So if I'm going to school in Topeka, Kansas versus Boston, Massachusetts, the BAH is going to vary wildly once again. So I may be getting $3,000 in Boston. I may be getting $1,400 in Topeka, Kansas. And so, just like with the military and just like, other programs, it is very much zip code dependent upon the BAH, and that's for full-time students. So whether that's getting a graduate degree and you're taking 6 credits at a time, or whether you're, an undergrad taking 12 or more credits, those things are going to be another question to ask and thing to consider when you're talking about a school. But back to DEA, that's approximately $1,200 per month. So when you think about that across a semester is usually 4 or 5 months, depending on the school. So you'll get that $1,200 a month which, averages out to around $5,000, $6,000, whatever it is for that semester. So that's sort of giving you a benefit, or it's lowering the tuition a little bit, but it's going directly to you. So that money is responsible for you. And the eligibility for that is, the 100% service connected disability or died while in service. So if your mother or father or whomever had that happen to, unfortunately, that you become eligible for that dependent education assistance. Chapter 31. So that is something I really want to get down into a little bit in the weeds. As I've been in higher education, I was at a community college for 5 years before I got here to Villanova, and I've been here now for 4 years. Is Chapter 31 VRE is a benefit that is specifically for service-connected disabled veterans. I believe it's 10% or more. I could be wrong, could be 20%, but it's either 10 or 20% service connection. And you apply for it just like you would, file a claim with the VA. And since my time as, doing this job, either as a school certifying official or now as the director of an office, the number of people who are utilizing that benefit has dramatically increased. And I think that's partially because folks coming home from the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan were frankly disabled. And so when you do that and you apply and get that disability, you're automatically eligible. A lot of people, though, still in my conversations with transitioning service members don't understand the Chapter 31. Like, why would I do that? Why don't I just use the post 9/11 GI Bill? It's no different. It's the same. I'm on the yellow ribbon. Well, Chapter 31 pays for your full ride. And so whether it's at Harvard or the community college, it's going to pay for your full ride through program completion, as long as you maintain academic progress. And it also pays for all your books. It doesn't give you a book stipend, but it pays the same BAH as long as you're Chapter 33 eligible while using 31. It's going to pay you the same BAH like you are using the post 9/11 GI Bill. And so I frankly believe that it's maybe not better, but it's highly worth considering using it. And it's because they are an employment-based program. So let's just say you want to be a lawyer, and so you're going to study political science or whatever as an undergrad, and then you have to go to law school. You can't really be a lawyer without going to law school. And so if you get approved for VRE, they will pay for your undergraduate, and potentially, as long as it's part of your academic progress and plan, they'll pay for your law degree as well. Or whether maybe you want to be a mental health counselor. We have several folks in our mental health counseling program who use this benefit to pay for their undergraduate, who are now getting their master's degree paid for. And it's because it's an employment. You want to be a counselor, you want to be a nurse, you want to be that. How do we get there? And so they create pathways for you to get those benefits. And frankly, it's something worth considering. And usually it pays you for a little bit more time. It gives you more flexibility within that program. And I believe it's 48 months as opposed to 36, but there are extensions and there are, other opportunities within that program. You're going to apply. You're going to have to fill out some questionnaires and do some, interviews with a VA counselor to talk about why it is that your service connection disability, impacts your ability to get a job, and how this new plan will help you get a job. So an example of that would be, I was a heavy equipment operator in the Navy Seabees, as an example, and I hurt my back and I really can't do that anymore. So I think, what I'd really like to do is, be a cybersecurity person or whatever. But because I need to get trained in that, and my Navy training doesn't really, afford me that, opportunity. And because my back hurts, I can't do the heavy equipment operating. I need to take this new program and plan. And so they'll meet with you. And if they approve of it, they'll say, okay, you can go to Villanova, we'll pay for your program for this long, and then we'll help you on the tail end get a job. So they really work with you you get assigned a counselor, and you work with them and you show them your transcripts every semester. But again, VRE is something that, in my opinion, is still underutilized. It's a fantastic way to not have to worry about the yellow ribbon program. They pay, again, full freight. whether it's a community college or the best college in the world, that they pay for it. And it's definitely worth talking about. I'm happy to talk more about that offline. If after this meeting you want to talk more about VR&E benefits, we could probably have a whole slide deck about VR&E. I think it's really, like I said, an underutilized program within the VA system that pays for. It's not an education program like post 9/11 GI Bill. It's really it's an education. But again, the way some things, you need credentials to get to certain jobs, and this is a way to do that. The other benefit that's VA related is the transfer of benefits. So let's say I'm currently an Army captain. I've served for 10 years, and I want to, but I already have my degree. I went through Army ROTC here at Villanova. I want to sort of give up my benefits, my GI Bill benefits, to my dependents. So there are certain criteria you have to meet. You have to apply for the transfer of benefits while you're on active duty, which is again, that's a snag that some people don't think about or don't know about, but it's something you have to apply for while on active duty. You have to have served for 10 years or more. And then you have to agree, I believe it's re-enlist for another 6 years. I think that could be wrong, but you have to agree to serve longer period of time. And then the other thing that's interesting about it is it provides you the ability to transfer those benefits to dependents, including spouses. And let's say you have 2 kids, but you only get those 36 months. So maybe you want to give, your kids are 8 and 10, let's just say, but because you have the kids and they're in the DEERS system, that's the other thing. You can't, if you're a single, person, you can't give them up to future spouses or kids. They have to be in the DEERS system currently. And for those who have served, they understand what DEERS means, but they have to be in the system already. And then what you can do is, you apply those benefits to those dependents of yours. So maybe you want to give initially 18 months to kid A and 18 months to kid B. But as they grow up, you learn that, kid A doesn't really have any interest in college and they want to, do X, Y, or Z. So maybe then you give all of those 36 months to kid B or vice versa. And so that's the nice thing about it, is those benefits are, or they're shiftable once you have them already allocated to the kids or the dependents. They're not static. You don't have to keep them at 12 months for one and whatever. You can really split them up and move them around as they go through. And we work with that and deal with that all the time, but that has implications for yellow ribbon as well. Like we talked about the yellow ribbon program, you're eligible for yellow ribbon as long as you have the benefit. So let's say you give your child 18 months. College will obviously last longer than 18 months. So if you have one kid at Villanova and one kid at a state school, maybe you want to just give all the post 9/11 GI Bill benefits to the child at the more expensive school, so that the yellow ribbon is more effective, as opposed to then having to come out of your pocket or take loans out because you only gave 18 months to the one. But that's a tough decision that you have to make as a family unit. I just wanted to sort of outline some of the implications and ramifications of making those choices. They are it's a flexible program. It's not static. You can shift months around, play with it a little bit, but there are some implications for yellow ribbon program. You're not going to be eligible for that if you run out of benefits, for example. And what the VA does is they sort of prorate those costs as we move forward. I think I see a couple of questions. Can you use the yellow ribbon for an MBA and then later use it for a JD? So again, as long as, let's just say you use it you have 36 months, right, of the benefit, and you get an MBA, and during that MBA, you use 20 months of the 36 months. So you still have 16 months of eligibility left. So yes, as long as you're still maintain that eligibility, and with the forever GI Bill, folks getting out after 2013 had that eligibility forever. And so what that allows you to do is use it for the MBA. And if you still have time to use it, you can use it for whatever you want to. Another MBA, another master's degree, a JD, a PhD, whatever it is, as long as you have eligibility and the school is a participating member of the Yellow Ribbon program and has slots available, then yes, you absolutely can use the Yellow Ribbon program for those 2 degrees. If you, again, the Yellow Ribbon program and the GI Bill specifically is really a time thing. It's not necessarily a money thing. You want to maximize the benefit, meaning as an undergraduate, you definitely want to be using you want to be going at a full-time clip. You do not want to just take 3 credits here and 3 credits there. You're going to be a sophomore and be out of benefits. And that's not going to be fun for anyone. So you want to really maximize the benefit if you can. Obviously, getting a graduate degree, if you're maybe a working professional, you have children, you may not be able to go at a full-time clip. And so, you have to obviously make those decisions. Does Chapter 31 engulf Chapter 33 upon usage? That is something that has changed recently. And no, it still gives you time to use 33 afterwards if, again, as long as you're eligible and have time left. So what I see a lot of times is students will transfer to Villanova from a community college, let's say, and they have been using Chapter 33 to get their associates, and now they're here. They have, half their GI Bill left, but they're a 40% disabled veteran. We'll talk to them about it. We'll go through the process, and right now we have I think it's 45% of our student veteran population are using Chapter 31 benefits here, and that goes across the spectrum of law school, graduate school, undergrad, student veterans. So, what that has is what they do is the Chapter 31 comes in, they still have the Chapter 33 eligibility. It pays the full BH, it pays the full freight, and then they still have time on their benefits at the end of that to use the 33. So again, there's a lot of things involved in moving parts. I personally believe that Chapter 31, if you were eligible for it, you should apply for it as with the Chapter 33 benefits or not. We have 3 students here who are at Villanova who are in their 50s, who are not eligible for Chapter 33 benefits, but because they were disabled while they served, they are now just using Chapter 31. They don't have any Chapter 33 eligibility at all. But again, it's paying full freight at Villanova. It's a no-brainer. It's something worth it's something worth exploring. Transfer of benefits does need to occur prior to being Yellow Ribbon eligible. Yes, the transfer of benefits because the only way you're eligible for Yellow Ribbon is if you're eligible for post 9/11. They go hand in hand. If you are using post 9/11 GI Bill benefits, that means at 100%, that means you are Yellow Ribbon eligible. So again, if I'm at Villanova and using these benefits, but my kid wants to come here after I've been serving and they're wanting to apply to Villanova, if you haven't transferred benefits, the VA doesn't know that you exist or doesn't know at this point that the student exists. It needs to be in the VA system and they need to be deemed eligible. So the first step is getting the DOD to sort of implement that transfer. And then the next step is applying to the VA, having the dependent then apply. The dependent basically becomes the veteran because at that point, or the service member, at that point, the person who's giving up, they're relinquishing the benefit. They're saying, I no longer will be using it. I'm giving it to my dependents. So then those dependents or dependents, whomever, applies through the VA for that certificate of eligibility. And they go from there. If the GI Bill is about time and not money, what does 50% or anything of 100% of the GI Bill look like? 18 months of the full annual entitlement. So if you are, I'll go back to my example of, and we have 2 of these folks here on campus. They were National Guard service members. They served for 8 years or whatever it was. But during the height of the Iraq War, they did 1 deployment. So it gave them 12 or 14 months of active duty time. And that's what the GI Bill really requires, obviously, is the 36 months of active duty time. That can be in one big block, you did a 4-year tour and you're done. That, or it can be if you're a reservist or a guard and you get deployed several times, it can be over chunks of time, throughout your career. But you need to have 36 months of active duty time. Anything less than that gives you a percentage. So to answer your question, if I'm at 50%, so if tuition costs $10,000 and I'm a 50% eligible veteran, the VA covers $5,000 of that for 36 months. So if tuition is always $10,000, then for the total time I'm eligible, the VA covers $5,000 of that tuition cost for the entire time I'm in my program, whether it's MBA, undergrad, whatever it is. They cover 50% of the cost of tuition. They'll also pay for 50% of your BAH. So if I'm getting $2,000 a month at the full-time rate for BAH, your housing allowance, then that means the VA is going to pay you $1,000, half of that for, again, your entire time while you're getting that degree. Book stipend, same thing. You'll get 50% of the book stipend. So that's for those 36 months that you're eligible at the 50% rate or 75, whatever it is, 80% rate. That's what it does. It takes the math. It says tuition's X, we cover 80% of X, which equals this. And it pays the institution that, it pays you as BAH that, et cetera. So hopefully that answers all of those questions sufficiently. But those are all very good questions. And again, the goal of this webinar and the goal of other opportunities like this is to really get you thinking, doing, and asking. Those three things. If you're doing that, you're really approaching your higher education institution the right way. And frankly, that's what you should be doing, no matter what school you're going to. It doesn't really matter. Obviously, I would love for you to come to Villanova, but if you go to Notre Dame or Georgetown or Harvard or wherever in the world you go, I'm just happy to see that you're pursuing your education and making some self-improvements. So that's really covering VA benefits. When we look back on the first few slides, that's really what the focus of this was. The post 9/11 GI Bill, which you're eligible for after 36 months of active duty time. This gives you the 100% rates. You apply to the VA through va.gov website. You apply for educational benefits. They will then send you a certificate of eligibility that lays out really how much time you have left. So at the end of each semester, the VA, or I guess the beginning, they send you an updated certificate of eligibility that lays out how much time you have left, the school you're going to, et cetera. So they keep tabs. And then again, within your e-benefits portal, it also keeps tabs to the day of how much benefit you have left. So the GI Bill, and then the Yellow Ribbon Program, that is it's really a contractual agreement, but from school to school to school, it varies wildly. So you really want to look at the Yellow Ribbon page at every institution. We usually have one. Most schools do, really outlining. Maybe there's an application piece you have to do. Maybe there's some information, how many students are eligible, what those costs are, what it covers, what it doesn't cover, how you are eligible. Those are very important things to think about and ask about with that school certifying official. And then Chapter 35 is a dependent education assistance. That is a benefit for folks who are 100% service connected. Again, maybe it's their mother or father or whomever, and they are the dependent of said person. So if my dad served in Vietnam and because of Agent Orange became 100% service connected, I would become potentially eligible for DEA. And it's an application process just like any other VA program. And it pays a monthly stipend to you, the student, not the school. You get around $1,200 a month as a full-time student to use, how you wish. And then Chapter 31, which, I am going to say it again. I'm strongly encouraging you to look into that program. And if it's appropriate and fits you and your needs, apply for that program. I'd be happy to connect you with other students who are using the benefit, how they apply it, how they, that's something that I believe is a really strong program to consider, no matter what degree you're pursuing. If you already have a job and you're, trying to get an MBA, they're less likely to approve you of that program, again, because it's an employment program, not an education program. So they're probably not going to approve you if you already are working in finance at Citibank and just want to get your MBA. But if you're fresh out of the military, you just got your claim in and you're, deemed 50% service connected and you're trying to, be a nurse or whatever, it's definitely worth exploring and thinking about. And again, the worst thing they're going to do is tell you no, but you'd still have Chapter 33 eligibility anyways. So it's not like they're going to take away your benefit. And then the transfer of benefits. That's very important for folks who are still currently serving, wanting to give it up to their dependents. And the nice thing to know about that is that it's flexible. You can give your dependents, a certain amount of months, you can allocate them out, and it's flexible upon learning what they're, what they want to do. If one child or spouse or whomever wants to go to a really expensive school, you can maybe give them all the benefit and vice versa. So what's next outside of the VA? What are other things to help or offset or assist, et cetera, with the cost of tuition and education? So, again, my story is I served and then I went to school, and, so basically I was unemployed. I didn't come from a lot of means, and I was the oldest dude on college campus walking around. And if it weren't for other student veterans and folks on the college campus who were, helping me, I would have had no understanding or idea what in the world FAFSA was and why it's important. And I still run into that every day with students who are interested in applying here to Villanova. What is FAFSA? Why would I do that? I'm using the GI Bill. Why? It doesn't matter. My costs are covered. And I will say that if you don't like free money in your pocket and really despise that concepts, then absolutely don't fill out a FAFSA. The FAFSA is a really great way to get Pell grants, other state grants. And also, if you're applying for many internal scholarships or opportunities, they use the FAFSA to understand your means. So if again, like me, you're coming out of the military as a young E5 and wanting to go to college, I wasn't like I had a lot of money in my pocket. So any additional money that I could use, because I didn't really want to I didn't want to work a full-time job as an undergrad. I wanted to maybe work something part-time, but the Pell Grant and other state grants really allowed me to just focus on my schooling and not have to worry about, paying my bills or whatever. The Pell Grant is something that you're eligible for your time in school. It's a needs-based and it's a time-based program. So you're not eligible for it forever. So if it takes you 25 years to get your undergrad because you're only taking 3 credits at a time, the Pell Grant, won't really be relevant to you. But if you're just going to school, taking 12, 15 credits at a clip and are Pell eligible, it'll pay you around $2,500 a semester, free money in your pocket. It doesn't go towards tuition necessarily, especially if you're covered fully. It'll go into your pocket and you'll be able to use it to cover other costs, whatever that is: rent, housing, paying for a car, fixing your car. So the Pell, and here in Pennsylvania we have something called FIA. It's the Pennsylvania Higher Education Assistance, or whatever the A stands for. But that gives you, basically mimics Pell, and you're eligible for both. So that's basically an additional $5,000 per semester while you're a college student. That's just free money in your pocket. So maybe you're only 60% eligible for the benefit, and now you have an additional $5,000 to cover some of those remaining costs. Or maybe you're fully covered, but you don't really want to work full time. You need some walking around money. These are things to 100% apply for and try to do, and you won't be eligible for it. They won't know anything about you if you don't fill out a FAFSA. So it's very, very important to fill it out every single year that you're a college student. There's not a lot that pertains to you as a graduate student, but as an undergrad, it's a very, very important thing. So another thing we have here is for first generation college students here at Villanova, like internal grants, presidential scholars, Coca-Cola scholarship, SVA, all these other, whether they're internal or external, a lot of them use FAFSA or some sort of means test to see if you are, eligible, or who has because maybe they're looking at who has the most eligibility. So if you're, competing against other people and you really don't have a two pennies to scratch together, you're obviously more eligible than someone else. So those are the things to really think about and consider, as ways to either offset, help cover, or again, just give you, who doesn't like free money? I haven't met anyone yet. But those are things to strongly consider applying for. I would argue if you're not filling out your FAFSA every year, you're not getting the right advice. It's really something that is invaluable and helps you as you move forward. So what will happen as you fill out a FAFSA is it'll come through your financial aid portal through your institution, where it'll say you're eligible for $20,000 in student loans and $5,000 in grants. You can decline any of it, all of it, whatever. You can say no to the loans and yes to the grants, which you should be doing, or maybe you need the loans. I don't know your specific situation, but that's really what's going to happen is after you fill out a FAFSA, it starts communicating based on that application to your select institution that you chose. It gives you, eligibility criteria and says, okay, you're eligible for this, you're eligible for that. And then you go into that portal through your institution and sort of pick and choose what you want, whether it's loans or grants. And again, going back to my initial VA comments is maximize the benefit. If you're only taking 3 or 6 credits as an undergrad, the Pell Grant and the FIA grants, other state grants, may not pertain to you. They may want to see you at a 75% or more clip. And so it's something to consider when you're talking about your rate of pursuit, as the VA calls it. How quickly are you pursuing a degree? Are you going in small increments, or are you a full-time student? So that's going to base your award. It's going to be based a lot of times off of that. So, and to go back to the GI Bill really quickly, if you're not a full-time student, that'll also impact your award and your BAH. The BAH is let's say it's $2,000 as a full-time student. If you're only taking 6 credits and are a half-time student, you won't get any BAH. So you have to be at 51% or more to get the BAH. And then as you do that, the award number drops. So if you're getting $2,000 for BAH at a full-time clip, but you're only taking 9 credits, which is 75% of full-time, you'll only get 75 or 80% of that BAH. Just another thing to consider as your rate of pursuit. The VA really incentivizes and wants you to be a full-time student. And me personally, I also advise that because, no one wants to linger around college. College is great. It's a fun experience, but, you want to get in here and get out of here and get on with your life. And so I would urge you, and I do that all the time, is urge you to try to maintain full-time status. Obviously, there are some semesters where life happens. You have to withdraw or whatever. But I would, I always urge folks to try to be full-time as best they can. Looks like a couple more. Do you apply for benefits only after you've served the required amount of time, or can you apply at any time? So I would say with the VA, let's say you've served for 2 years and you're a service member. So again, you have eligibility now. You'll get some of that benefits. You won't necessarily be full-time, but as your DD 214 revises, so as your active duty time revises, then your ability to sort of ask the VA to modify your award is also appropriate, and you can do that. We've seen that many times. Someone's at 70% and then they served on a deployment or they did whatever, and now their eligibility is up to 100%. So I would say, apply as you deem fit. If you want to wait till your time is done or do it, the VA will, they only have access to the time that you've served up until the date that you applied. That's the information that they have. So they're going to base that award off of, your time in service at that specific, date stamp of the application. Sam, here, is there a recent change? I'm glad you could make it, Sam, by the way. Was there a recent change that requires verifying enrollment? Yes. So folks who went to school, I guess in the 90s, pre 2008, when the GI Bill or post 9/11 GI Bill came around, they were on the Montgomery GI Bill. And the Montgomery GI Bill, similar to, I think it's chapter 1606 now, is you have to go into waive or another function, and you have to verify that you as a student are still enrolled at the institution that you said. So what happens at the beginning of a semester is Amy, the certifying official, says to the VA that Sam is here at Villanova. He's pursuing his degree in X, Y, or Z, and he's doing at 12 credits, and it costs this amount of money. And then, so the VA is aware at that start. That's before the semester starts, that the VA is notified. But what was happening is a lot of people were, adding, dropping, withdrawing, and doing all these things. And then the VA is being reactionary in a lot of ways to, they're still paying BAH, they've paid the school, but if you're not taking, full credits, but don't let anyone know, you could be on the hook for that overage charge, which could, create some problems for you. So what they've done is they have saw as a solution, whether we agree with it or not, or whether it's good or not, it's brand new. So we don't really know the data yet, but they're asking you as a student to verify at the beginning of each month that you're still, or at the end of each month, I guess, that you're still enrolled in said program they were initially notified for. So you can do it via text, which I think is the easiest way. And I would advise folks to do it that way. You're going to be asked to do it via text or, through e-benefits or whatever. Text is the easiest way. I haven't had any students here give me any gruff about, oh, no, I have to do this. It seems like it's a pretty simple step, and they even give you a month extra. So if you forget for a month or whatever, they give you that extra month of time before it starts to penalize you. So if you miss 2 months in a row, that's when it can become problematic for you as a student. But it is a new sort of process and step. And that's the other thing to, again, thinking, asking, and doing. The VA from the GI Bill's perspective is an always evolving process and award. So it's not always staying stagnant. There's going to be changes and modifications all the time. And so our job as staff members here at institutions is to really understand and get to know the inside baseball, if you will, of the GI Bill. And so that when it applies to our students, we are saying what is correct. And maybe there are times that we don't know. So we call the VA as well. And there is a VA student hotline, which I would urge you as students to get familiar with. You may be on hold for a few minutes, but it is a great resource for you as a student utilizing VA benefits. And then, so answering some of these questions preemptively, but I also want to talk about one more thing that I forgot to mention, which I have, there are two of my students here out in my the Student Veteran Center here on campus, who are my work study students. And so what that does is, as a student veteran, you can become a work study at that institution as long as the institution has gone through the approval process to the VA. And so we have eligibility for 2 here. As long as you're using VA benefits, no matter what chapter, you're eligible for it. And that gives you an additional around $700 to $800 a month in tax-free dollars through work study hours. So you'll work 20 to 25 hours a week here in the Veteran Center. You get paid whatever institution you're at. So it's another thing to ask as a student veteran somewhere is, hey, do you have work study slots, and how do I become eligible? Do I apply for it, whatever? And so we have 2 students here every semester who are doing that and just earning some extra money. But again, that's an extra $700 a month that you can use for whatever. There are some criteria that you have to be eligible for. You have to be pursuing education at a certain clip and all those things, but it is another way to offset some costs, but also not have to worry about trying to find 4 different jobs or whatever. It's a good way to have some walking around money, if you will, as a college student. It's something that I did as a college student. I would strongly urge you as a prospective student, or if you are one, to look into and think about work study. So it's not like you're just stapling papers all day long. I allow my students to actually do some studying here in the Veteran Center. It's a way for them to get acclimated to some of these VA processes, though, start interfacing with students and doing some office tasks that they can put on their resume so that when they're applying for a job later on, they can use that and have me as a built-in reference, which is nice. So going back to these examples, how do these examples impact my decisions? Well, if you look at the 3 different schools that we gave as examples in the previous slides, school 1, 2, and 3, those are going to impact your decisions greatly. Frankly, if you are looking at colleges and they either have some slots available, like 50 slots, but you're number 57 or number 12, whatever, you have some slots, so you're going to do some due diligence on that part. Or if the Yellow Ribbon program is only giving you $5,000 in addition to what the VA cap is, that's going to impact your decision to want to go there or apply there. Where if the school is unlimited and that seems more appealing, frankly, financially. So that's going to impact your decisions to apply, to do all of it, to pursue the education at that school. And it should be something you're talking about with a school certifying official before application, or at least after you've applied, frankly. And I work with the services school partners, talking about that stuff with students who maybe they're, hey, we just met with Steve. He's, currently in the Navy. He's thinking about applying to Villanova. And those are some of the things I talk about with Steve whenever he's, the hypothetical Steve, if you will, wanting to apply to Villanova. We talk about all these processes, what all these benefits are. We're trying to make these folks as informed as possible, so that when you get to Villanova or whatever school you're at, you have the best tools in your toolbox to be a successful student. Where can I find all this information? That's a very good question. For information about the GI Bill in general, the VA has done some good work. They have basically like a school calculator where you can go on and see like what tuition is, what the VA covers, are they a participating Yellow Ribbon program. Another website that's worth exploring is called Weems, and that really takes you in a deeper dive on what programs and what schools are eligible for GI Bill benefits. So we've just seen in the news that Arizona Global Campus has been impacted by GI Bill benefits, and I believe you're no longer eligible to use those benefits while pursuing a degree because of certain infractions or whatever. So with that being in mind, you really want to be doing your due diligence and asking those questions, because that will impact your decision and have some ramifications on the use of your benefits. If you're wanting to go to school and that school no longer is eligible for use of GI Bill benefits for whatever reason, that's obviously going to have an impact on your decision. Where else can you find that information? Here at Villanova, we have a whole page dedicated to the Yellow Ribbon. Most schools do, and you can sort of get some information. It also gives you contact information if you have more questions about it. There's an application. Because we have the 50 slots, you have to apply so that you're on our list, and so we don't forget about you, but we know that you're on, so that when we talk to the VA, we are giving them that number of 50. Why does it vary from college to college? Well, similarly to my office, like we have a veteran center here on campus. We have me, I'm here. We have work study students. Not every college has either the will or ability, maybe sometimes both, to produce or have as much resources as other schools towards the GI Bill. So like I said, the Yellow Ribbon program, you have to split the difference with the VA. We as an institution can't just lower tuition to that amount. We have to actually pay into the as well. So it costs the school money to be a participating Yellow Ribbon school. It's not just the school using a coupon to deduct tuition. You actually have to split that difference financially with the VA. So for every 50 students we're using here for the Yellow Ribbon, it's costing us that difference times 50. And so that's why, right? So some schools have just more resources than others to cover, but also more resources in general, staffing wise or whatever. Are there other ways to fund / cover tuition? I think we covered that a little bit with some of the scholarships. There are other ways as well. So a great scholarship opportunity, which a couple of Villanovans have applied for and one used, is the Tillman Scholarship. The Tillman Scholarship really helps offset and can be renewed every semester. There is something where if you are a student, let's say in a STEM degree path, where maybe it takes you a little bit longer to, you have those 36 months. If you're in a STEM field and trying to get a degree, you can apply for a STEM extension through your institution and through the VA. And that gives you an extra year of benefits. It doesn't make you yellow ribbon eligible. It just means you have an additional 12 months of GI Bill benefits to use to try to, complete that degree, but you have to be in a STEM field. And that's, they have a good description of what all that means at the VA website as well, for looking at what STEM programs are eligible. If in cybersecurity versus nursing versus, whatever, most of those, if it's even related to STEM, they've made them eligible. And we have 2 students currently at Villanova who are using that STEM extension in their senior year. They're about to graduate. And then we talked about the Pell Grant and other ways to get some free money in your pocket. Those are always good things to have. And then how are you preparing to answer these questions? That's my question to you, right? So we have action items, thinking, doing, and asking. Well, that's, where I put it back on you a little bit, is how are you preparing to answer these questions as you are about to, embark on, or maybe you currently are embarking on your academic journey, or maybe you're, a service member hoping to give these benefits up to your dependents. How are you preparing for all of this? And I think this is part of it. This is one tool in that toolbox. I think another big step to take is contacting and speaking to other people who've maybe used these benefits. That's a great way to gain some information. So like I said, I'm happy to put you into contact with some students who are using Chapter 31. Maybe you have a colleague who's given dependents benefits before, but also talking to the school certifying official here at the schools you hope to apply to gain a better understanding of how the benefits are utilized specific to that school and specific to you as a veteran, service member, or military affiliated student. And so those are things that you can be doing proactively before you start your journey, or before you get knee deep and already accumulating massive amounts of debt. Those are the goals. And I really appreciate Service to Schools' willingness to host webinars like this, because at the end of the day, what ought to be happening is we should have an informed populace about how to utilize benefits that we've earned, right? That's what is happening. We've earned these benefits through our service. And if we don't know how to use them, then that's shame on us. So, we're trying to, as colleagues and partners, trying to help you all understand how to best utilize and maximize your benefits while you embark on your academic journeys. And again, I'm happy to answer any more questions that anyone has. I hope this has been at least remotely valuable for you to sit in on and gain some more understanding. Like I said, here's some of my contact information, my email, and then my website there, veterans.villanova.edu, and my email address. If you ever want, I don't care what school you're going to, if you have questions about the GI Bill or anything, you can always ask me a question. I'm happy to. I'm not going to say, no, you're choosing another school. That's not in my blood or my DNA. I want to help you as a human being get to the school of your choice and be successful there. So I'm always happy to help you no matter what. But again, I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thanks so much, Mike. Great information. As I dropped in the chat, we're going to be emailing out a handout with some tips, a couple of those contacts, websites that Mike had mentioned, and certainly going to include the recording of the webinar here. So thank you all so much for joining us in the middle of your day. Mike, thank you again for your time and all of your expertise around financing education, because, like you said, everyone enjoys free money, so take advantage of it. Everyone enjoy the rest of your day, and please continue to check our website and our social media channels as we continue to host more webinars. But everyone, take care.